We're going to be joined now by Jason Ballman. He joins me now on the phone. He's the communications manager for the Southern California Earthquake Center. First of all, thank you for talking to us, and tell us mostly right now about what the expected damage typically would be at an earthquake measuring 6.4.
Well, right now we have this main shock of a 6.4 that occurred a couple hours ago at this point, almost a couple hours ago. We're having dozens of aftershocks. This is to be expected. When it comes to damage, remember that aftershocks can actually still cause damage themselves. They can also cause injuries. And so what we're here to do is remind everyone that we have all these
I need to interrupt you for just a second. We're actually showing new video just coming in of a fire in Ridgecrest, California. Ridgecrest is one of the areas right around the epicenter of this earthquake. And crews, I understand, have been responding to at least 24 medical and fire incidents after the earthquake right near Ridgecrest, California, which is where this fire is burning right now. And it looks to be a home. We heard at first that there were no initial injuries, so we pray that anybody who was in that home either got out right after they felt the quake or were rescued. Are you hearing anything at all regarding injuries? Considering we're watching a home on fire right now, it makes you wonder if there's people out there that did not get out safely in time.
I haven't heard anything about any injuries being confirmed yet, but this is an unfolding event. Just because the shaking is over doesn't mean that the entire effects of the earthquake are over, as we're seeing right now. And what this also illustrates is that being prepared to survive and recover can help to reduce these kinds of things. So if people can put together their kit, get that first aid and start training, know how to use a fire extinguisher, know how to drop, cover, and hold on when the earthquake happens. All these things you can do ahead of time will empower you to have the peace of mind when the earthquake occurs and to be able to deal with its effects. And we just have a great website, earthquakecountry.org. People can go to get all these resources. They can deal with earthquakes before they even happen.
Okay, if you're just joining us right now, we're showing you video that's coming in. Ridgecrest, California, a home there on fire. It looks like the firefighter crews there did get it under control. They're still, getting out most of the flames, but it seems that most of that fire is out. I want to talk to you more. Jason Ballman's on the phone with us, the communications manager for the Southern California Earthquake Center, about the aftershocks, because that is a huge contender and something that, when you have an earthquake, obviously the residents of California are not out of the woods yet. Dr. Lucy Jones from Caltech gave a news conference earlier, and she talked about what people should expect as far as earthquakes. This was a 6.4. Initially, officials were saying it was a 6.6, but you could expect aftershocks over 6. And I understand that you could get 3.5 earthquakes, at least 10 of those aftershocks from the earthquake. And she said 100 2.5s. So these aftershocks will continue for some time.
Right. So what we're talking about is the statistical statistics that we see from past earthquake events, that typically if you have one earthquake, you might have 10 of the lower magnitude below that. So you have one 6.0, 10 5.0s, 100 4.0s, and then exponentially it goes up, 1,000 3.0s, that kind of thing. But those are just statistics. So in California, our geology is really complex. We have lots of faults all around us, hundreds. And, the one that just went earlier today and caused a 6.4, that's just one fault. And all these other aftershocks are occurring on it. We have many other faults, the legendary San Andreas fault in the greater LA area. We also have the Newport Inglewood fault, and we have all these different faults. But the thing is don't get too obsessed with worrying about that one earthquake that just happened, because we could have another earthquake at any other time on any other fault.
The location of the epicenter is also very key to point out, because you just brought up the Andreas fault. This is not near the Andreas fault. If an earthquake were to rattle around the Andreas fault, would the aftermath be more severe?
Depends on the size of the earthquake and
a size of an earthquake at 6.4, let's say.
Yeah, so a 6.4 on San Andreas is going to depend on where it is. Now, in LA, we've run lots of scenarios. We know that if there's a 7.8 on the San Andreas, and that began on the southern segment of the San Andreas, that we'd have a lot of really strong shaking for up to 4 minutes. Today, from the 6.4 on this fault way out there near Ridgecrest, in between the Sierras and the Mojave Desert, most of us in the rest of Southern California felt really light rolling shaking. I myself, sitting at home where I live in Long Beach, which is southwest LA County, I felt really light, slow rolling kind of shaking. It lasted for about 20 seconds, and based on what we know, that when you feel that kind of light rolling shaking, that usually means it's coming from a distant earthquake, and sure enough it was. I know a lot of people were really stressed that they couldn't get onto the USGS website. That's because there's so many people in Southern California that are trying to get information right away. And when you have millions of people all of a sudden try to visit a website, the website usually can't handle that all too well. I mean, that's how earthquakes are. They affect millions of people sometimes all at once. And so the peace of mind comes from you knowing what to do and how to stay safe. In California, most people, well, we know in California that death really isn't a concern in California. We're looking at stats like you're more likely to be injured in a car accident on a daily basis than an earthquake. But what's really the problem in California is injury and economic disruption, and we're seeing that with some of the events already unfolding right now in the town of Ridgecrest, where a lot of the shaking was intense right around that area, a strong, severe kind of shaking.
Right. Dr. Lucy Jones earlier talked about how, we should not be surprised by this, but yet some people might be, because it actually has been a very quiet time. I mean, the last earthquake of this magnitude wasn't since 1994. So Californians, in fact, have not really experienced the level of earthquakes that they have in the past. If these aftershocks come in and somebody starts to feel that sort of rolling, thunderous feeling under their feet and they're inside, what should they do?
Yeah, so always be ready when you feel shaking to drop, cover, and hold on. That means that immediately you drop onto your hands and feet, you cover your head and neck, and then if there's a sturdy desk or table nearby that you can get under, crawl to that and hold on until the shaking stops. That's what drop, cover, and hold on means. But it's an adaptable, modifiable message. If you're driving, pull over, set the parking brake, make sure you're not near a bridge or power line. And, a lot of us, it's 4th of July here in Southern California. A lot of people are probably enjoying the beach. We have the general idea is that if you feel any shaking at the beach, go ahead and evacuate to high ground or inland. You never know if a tsunami is following that.
Right, a 4th of July.
We just want people to,
No,
we just want people
sorry.
to think about how to stay safe.
No, I'm just thinking, you just brought up the fact that it is 4th of July. A lot of people are outside. So if you're not inside where you can crawl under a desk, as you mentioned, if you're at the beach, of course, you walk away and get away from the water in case of, as you mentioned, a tsunami. And if that were to be the case, people would want to move away from the beach as quickly as possible. But if you're outside enjoying a barbecue, whatever, in your backyard, where many people are on this holiday, what do you do in that particular instance?
Oh, it's great. Yeah. So in that instance, your best thing to do is to drop onto your hands and feet and crawl to an open space, or you can even just quickly get to an open space away from things that could fall on you, and then cover your head and neck, and then hold on to your head and neck until the shaking is over. And it might sound a little crazy to say that, but in really big earthquakes, you might really need to hold your body in brace.
Okay.
So that's the best you can do outside. And again, in your car, pull over, set the parking brake. If you're on a train, like public transportation, for example, or a bus or something, you can bend over. You can't get onto the floor of the bus or the train. And that protects your vital organs. That's why we always want people to drop and then bend over, and then cover your head and neck, and then hold on to something. Maybe that's your head and neck or the pole next to you or a chair next to you until the shaking has stopped.
Okay.
And the last thing we always want to tell people is be careful, because sometimes earthquakes may feel kind of small, and they might feel like that light little rolling motion that a lot of us felt earlier, but then maybe bigger shaking is coming. And that's just how earthquakes unfold sometimes. We really know they happen right at the moment. It's not like a tornado or a hurricane where we can see it coming and kind of gauge what we can do. So anyway, we just wait a minute after you drop, cover, and hold on. Wait a minute, slowly and carefully get up. Most injuries after the Northridge earthquake, were from people who freaked out, started running, and they started tripping over things and cutting their feet and that kind of thing. So be careful.
Okay, well, we appreciate that. And those aren't obvious tips. I mean, a lot of people wouldn't necessarily think that. They might think, hey, if you're inside, run outside because you're fearful perhaps that, the structure you're in might collapse. I mean, a lot of people wouldn't know what to do. So we do appreciate your tips. Jason Ballman, thank you very much for taking the time to talk to us today.
You're very welcome.